Hey everyone, welcome back to the Weekly Awakening Podcast. This is your host, Cosmic Colleen, back with another weekly astrology update. I hope you guys enjoyed my little intro last week. My kids were like, Mom, that's so cringe. I said, whatever. I thought it was funny. That's all that matters. So today, actually, let's talk about what happened starting Monday. This has been a much more calming and relaxing week. We began the week out with the grand water trine with Jupiter, Saturn, and the Sun. That has felt really, really nice this week, and we'll get into that. So that began Monday the 17th, 12:07 a.m. So, basically after Sunday night when you're all sleeping. The Sun in Scorpio at Trine Jupiter, which is now in retrograde in Cancer, and Saturn retrograde in Pisces, and it began a beautiful grand water trine. I know my water signs, and a lot of this episode is going to be for you guys. You are feeling a little more calm and a little more together. Tuesday the 18th, yesterday, Mercury retrograde ingresses back into Scorpio at 10:20 p.m. Believe it or not, I have been sleeping, going to bed early then. So we're all waking up with a little bit of, and I think because we're in this grand water trine, this is making Mercury retrograde ingressing back into Scorpio a much calmer Mercury retrograde. Wednesday the 19th, today Mercury retrograde will oppose Uranus in Taurus, which is now retrograde back into Taurus, and trine Neptune in Pisces. Then Thursday the 20th, tomorrow we have the new moon in Scorpio, 1:47 a.m. Then at 4:23 a.m., remember East Coast time, Mercury retrograde will conjunct the Sun. Okay, guys, I'm recording this episode and I just wanted to let you know I am looking at my beautiful Christmas tree. As I'm watching it from afar, I realize that I have left spaces where I did not put lights, I guess, or I missed. It's a very Gemini Christmas tree, but I have become one of those people. About 4 years ago, I started putting it up the Sunday before Thanksgiving because I love my Christmas decorations. I love my Christmas tree, having my coffee in the morning, recording my podcast, watching it. But I'm done with it from January 1st, and I feel like all this effort for like 3-4 weeks, no thank you. So then last year I started putting up 2 weeks before Thanksgiving. And so Abram, my Aquarius, he fought me last year, a little bit this year, not as much. At first he was like, Mom, it's not even Thanksgiving, which is what he said. And he almost drew the line at a Christmas movie because we put a Christmas movie on, but then I convinced him hot cocoa with whatever he wanted, and we had ourselves a nice little Christmas decorating. Though with boys, they brought everything down from the attic, started wrestling on the stairs. Then I ended up putting the entire tree up. For my friends with daughters, they said, oh yeah, they decorated it, set it up like this. Much different with boys. But let's jump into the grand water trine. So we're starting this week out with the grand water trine. My water placements, all tune in. This is big for y'all. Okay, this is a completion. This is a positive completion. I'm going to get into the details, but for the general, for all of us this week, the collective energy should feel very compassionate, understanding, healing, loving, kind. It should feel all of those relaxing vibes that we have needed to bring into our emotional energy. Now, I want you all to remember that this week, bring those energies into your daily movements, moving in compassion, love, and understanding. It will benefit you guys in all the situations that you approach. This morning, I've become an early bird now that I have a middle schooler and have to wake up before 7. And I woke up at 6 a.m. and I've been telling myself you have to start your day with meditation, however that looks, for 15, 20 minutes. And I did that this morning, and I wrote something on my board years ago, but I don't always say it, that says, come from an open-hearted place today, Colleen. And I sat there and I meditated on that. And it's those simple things. If we all can start with that, and with this beautiful water energy, it's about channeling our emotions in the correct way. And all it really takes is a second to remind yourself to show up in a loving, centered place. I went and did some yoga on Monday, and it was a lot about breathing through situations as it comes. And for my water placements, we're really talking about understanding our emotions. And when you hear something that's like a gut to the heart or to the stomach, breathe. Right? Breathe. 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out, which is what I did in this 90-minute hot yoga class. And it's been such a great way to start the week and start this grand water trine. So breathe through your emotions. Now, Water placements, sorry, I need to take a little sip. Your emotional healing is finally taking a solid stance. You have been all over the place and trying to bring some grounded energy to your being. For water placements, emotions, they're your entire being, right? We all move with our element, and for the water signs, it's emotions that often you just can't control. You just show up in them. It's what you know best. But sometimes it's a disservice to you, and it's your natural energy. It's the way you live, act, react daily based on your emotions. Now that we know that, this is second nature to you. So now that we know that, how can you use this information to gain control of your emotions? Like I said, harnessing. Well, starting this week, it should be coming to you very naturally through the rest of the year. You're now feeling solid with something that's been an emotional roller coaster for the last year. You're now feeling more rested, supported. You learn to trust the universe, trust the process, and not get reactive, before the unveiling of the final truth of whatever you're meant to see, experience. Don't get reactive. This is going to be very present with you through the rest of the year. This deeper understanding, this open-hearted way when you approach yourself with your emotions. There's a deep understanding of emotions. There's a full circle with your intuition. This week, next week, your intuition is going to be super high. Now, water signs, I'm not just picking on you guys. I know you're a little more of the sensitive, but every element has something that it needs to work on, right? The air signs can be very detached. They actually need to show up with more emotion, and they have a hard time doing that. So everyone, we're just talking about your element right now. So let's talk about the new moon in Scorpio coming up. This is an emotionally charged new beginning. There's something very settling with this new moon in Scorpio, which I love, because sometimes the new moon in Scorpio, it doesn't always feel very new. The emotional reset, this is the big emotional reset, trying, finally coming together in an emotional setting and, settling any emotional scores before the year ends. We are ending this year much more emotionally settled and together than we started the year out. And let's not forget, we started the year of 2025 out with a Mars retrograde in Cancer, where it's like the worst place to even have a Mars in and a retrograde. It's not a good place to start the year. I know my water placements in particular and my Aries placements had a really, really hard start to the year. It's funny, we talk about how fast the year goes, and often the year does go fast, but I feel like when you reflect back, when I look back to January, what I was doing then, and like the first 6 months of the year, I'm like, wow, actually, that seems long ago. It's so strange the way we don't even get me on the way we perceive time and what is time, but if anyone wants to talk about it, let me know. But I'm telling you, we are ending this year much more settled than we began. So my water placements, whatever disruptions happened at the beginning of this year, and really last fall, it kind of began last fall when Mars first entered Cancer, and it has been like the longest time it has ever been in Cancer, and definitely most recent years. So what disruptions got you going where you really couldn't control your emotions, you couldn't control your reactions? Where are you now? Because you were finally feeling more settled. We got Jupiter in Cancer. The second half of Jupiter in Cancer is going to feel much more better than the first half. It was good, but remember, there was a square to Saturn as well when those two first happened in Aries. So it was a really interesting conflicting energy. But now that we're away from that, the second half of Jupiter in Cancer is going to bloom lots of blessings, which is beautiful and flourish. So I promise you, control your reaction, water signs. Now, again, I'm making a promise. The end of this year will feel much more settled. If it doesn't feel out this week and next week, you should be feeling much more settled. Now, I want you all to reflect on emotional relaxation. I'm a street psychologist, so I think a regular psychologist would call it emotional regulation, but here we go. Emotional relaxation. Oopsies. So in what ways did you start your year emotionally disrupted? Okay, go into, especially my water placements. What did the beginning of the year look like? How did those disruptions take place? The first 6 months probably of the year as well. Where are you now? Look at your growth. Emotional disturbances, that's the one thing, guys, push you past your comfort zone. You had to see that. Now, you live in emotional disturbances in some ways, but this really pushed you past your comfort zone that you didn't get stuck in it. You actually had to do something different. Now, are you seeing? How did you grow? Where are you now? In what ways do you still need to practice emotional regulation? How are you achieving it currently? Are you waking up at 6 a.m. and meditating? It takes 10 minutes, 15 minutes, prayer, meditation, do some stretching. Just start your day out grounded. You guys need to ground your emotions. And what does that look like? Especially, it only takes 10 to 15 minutes. But why is it so hard for the brain to do those type of things sometimes, to get into a better habit? But it's so easy now, our brain, to pick up our phone, scroll, and get into someone else's world before we've even jumped into ours. And imagine what that is doing to our brains. And I'm telling that myself. I started to get into a little bit of a bad habit where I'd wake up first thing and scroll. And that's part of like me doing something different right now with this Mercury retrograde, is actually these things I said I know I needed to do and stop doing. I am now, with this grand water trine, finally doing that. So what are the little changes you need to bring into your life that are really small, and they're going to have much better benefits than something as simple as scrolling or the unhealthy things that we do? We have to get control of our brains again. I've been working on that with my kids. I've been telling them that when I've been seeing how easy it is to control their little minds, all of a sudden I'm like, what are we all doing? What are we all doing? We're letting entire worlds and companies and people control our minds, and media and people we don't even know. Yet no one's practicing growing their own mind. You know, that's the goal, right? Is to make us all simple and the same, and not be able to understand our mind. But damn it, if you listen to the weekly Awakening podcast, you're gonna understand your mind. That is my goal. So be proud of yourself. You have come much further along than where you were at the beginning of 2025. Okay, much further along. I want to share this, and then I am done for my episode this week. So right now I have the South Node and the North Node. I'm having nodal return, and they're in my first house and my seventh house. So I want to reflect on the first house, which also has my moon. My moon is at 15 degrees and my ascendant at 16 degrees. So basically an exact conjunction in my first house of self in Virgo. So now the South Node has been on my ascendant. And with the South Node, one of the things that happens is it takes away, diminishes, lowers. And I was having a bunch of hormonal acne starting about a year or so ago. And so my doctor put me on spirulactone, actually with the eclipse in Virgo that we had, the lunar eclipse in Virgo in March that we had. And I've been on it since then, and I haven't seen him since then. I've been taking it. And when the South Node conjunct my ascendant, I actually had a doctor appointment that day, like within like 3 days. And he's like, wow, your blood pressure is super low. And my blood pressure has always been perfect. Like, I don't even know what it is, because every time I'm like, wow, your blood pressure is perfect. And he's like, he's like, have you been really tired? And I was like, yeah, but I was just chucking it up to like being, a single mom of 2 kids at 37, which feels much different than it did at 27. Like, I'm a little bit older and I'm working all the time. I had chucked it up to that. But there were times in these last 6 months, it didn't even register, where I was like, wow, like something wrong. I'm like really tired. So I just thought that was interesting, because with the moon, my body, as well as the first house of body and self and who I am, I was taking this medicine that began at the eclipse for 6 months, and my extremities were getting much colder too. And when the South Node conjunct my ascendant, they were like, wow, your blood pressure is really low. So it was like sucking it away. And that's some of the ways that this can show up, transit like this. I've been studying a lot about the South Node, especially in the first house with the moon, because we go to the South Node, which seems like quote unquote scarier, but because it releases us from attachments, but it also can show up in ways of like taking out my blood pressure. It's not always the healthiest things that show up, but thank God we caught that. I just thought that's like an interesting way. I like to tell you guys how astrology can show up in my life. Well, that is all. Happy new moon. Embrace, remember, say in all of your affairs today, or just start out at one point, do it right now in the car and say, let me come from an open-hearted place today, okay? And forgive yourself. If this is a time, if you are just like emotionally tied up and mad at yourself, this is a time to forgive yourself. Trust your life path. Trust yourself. Please rate, review, subscribe. That's the best way to support this podcast. I'm fully self-supporting. Send this to a friend. Post about it. You guys are continuing to do that all the time, and I am so happy and grateful. Thank you all. Love you all, and happy new moon.